Super. Working great.
All right. Next one, talking about the unassisted shot on goal. Yeah, I think that was a strength. Obviously, in college, I could skate and handle the puck. I think higher than most of the guys at that level, and was able to do a lot of stuff on my own. And obviously, as you go up in the leagues and play at higher levels, like in the Finnish league, for example, I had to adapt a little bit at first, for sure. I learned. I think I developed a lot, became a better hockey player at learning how to use my teammates better, and maybe for the fans and for people watching the game, it was fun to watch me try to do a lot of stuff on my own. But I think it was maybe I could have used. It wasn't a selfish thing like I wanted to do it on my own, but maybe I didn't see the ice as well as I do now. And I was lucky enough. My first season here, when I came over here, it was during the lockout, and I was playing on the power play right away in the first power play with Erik Karlsson was the defense. I was playing on the point with the power play. Erik Karlsson was my partner. He's arguably the best offensive defenseman in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Valtteri Filppula, who's one of the top Finnish-born players. He's now in playing for Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay.
And then his brother, Valtteri Filppula, who's another really, really skilled Finnish player. So I was lucky enough to play with some older guys that I really needed to move the puck to those guys. They were just world-class players. And I think that helped me a lot to see that sometimes it's better to get open without the puck and try to find soft, open space without the puck. And sometimes when you have it, everyone's coming to you, and you need to learn how to move it a little bit. So, and again, I think I've taken another step this season playing with some of the guys that we have on the team now. We really try to move the puck as much as we can and create offense that way.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the number of shots on goal is still a really important thing in my game. As I've been scoring a lot this season, people. The media here is crazy. It's like they treat the KHL over here like it's the NHL. So every game they're asking, okay, how many more goals do you break the record or whatever for the single season goal record?
What is the record, by the way?
It's 35.
Oh, and you hit 33 last tonight or today,
yeah,
earlier today.
Getting close, but what I always tell them is the same thing. I'll talk briefly about now is that. As a goal scorer or a guy who's expected to score, I try to focus more on the chances that I get in a game and the opportunities that I get and the number of shots on net that I get to evaluate my performance as opposed to whether or not I scored. It's easy to get frustrated when you go 4 or 5 games without a goal if that's all you're focused on, but I've been able to kind of coach myself into thinking that as long as I'm getting my chances and my shots on net, that the goals will come. And if you focus only on the results, meaning the goals, then I think that you kind of lose sight of what it takes to get there, how you score the goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way you do it, is to get the puck to the net, whether it's shots, tips, getting chances. And so I try to evaluate my games even now based on how many chances I have and how many shots on net I get. So that way, if I go through a stretch where maybe the puck's not going in, I can still feel confident that, okay, I'm getting my chances, I'm getting my shots, and the puck will go in the net eventually. So you don't get too down on yourself. And I think that's been a big thing for me, and another step as far as becoming a professional is learning that in a 65, 60 game season, you're gonna go 5 games sometimes without a goal, or 60 games, or 7 games. But if you let that snowball into a serious problem, that's when you get frustrated if you're only worried about the goal. So I still try to get the puck to the net as much as I can. Try to get 3, 4, 5, 6 shots a game, and yeah, that's something that I learned in college, and I think Scotty Warwick and Dickie really helped So, yeah, I think that's been a big, like I said, a big step for me.
Do you have a go-to shot or a go-to area of the ice where you feel the most confident that you're gonna be able to score, or is it more situation specific?
No, that's a fair question. I don't think so. I think that it goes through stretches. Like right now, our power play seems to be working well. I've scored 3 or 4 in the last couple games on the power play on one-timers. Really nice passes from Omar. So that seems to be working right now. But it will stop eventually. Eventually someone will figure it out. Someone will figure it out, and whatever we're trying to do, we'll have to change and adapt. Yeah, earlier in the season, we were scoring a lot more on rushes, whether it's 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s. We were scoring a lot on the rush. And now that's gotten a little bit tougher for us. We haven't had as much success with that, whether it be teams focusing on us a little bit more or whatever. But
Okay.
I think guys who score goals at every level, and it's kind of a mindset where you just got to kind of figure out what's working at the time, and then when it stops working, you got to realize, okay, I got to adapt and try to do something different and try to find another way to put the puck in the net. So yeah, I'd say that's the shortest answer is there is no one thing that always works, and when it stops working, you got to try to change it up a little bit.
All righty. How about number 3? Bring back a few memories about the.
Less than 2 weeks, signed an ATO with Connecticut Whale. 2 goals, 9 games.
Do you remember that double overtime against BU, your final game?
Yeah, well, I'll never forget it, but I don't have any comment on it.
Okay. That was that, as I recall, that was a series where DeSmith really sort of came into his own and sort of set the stage for the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's just a tough situation.
Yeah.
Tough situation with him, and I hate to see those kind of things happen to he's a good kid. I feel badly for him. But yeah, he was great in that series, and yeah, it's obviously something in my career that I'll never forget. Kind of wish you could forget, but.
Yeah, I was there for all 3 games. It wasn't exactly a friendly atmosphere, so you guys played. So you played extremely well. Probably better, I think, in that stretch of 3 games than you had the entire season.
Yeah.
So anyhow, you sort of talked about this a little bit, but the difference that you see between the AHL.
Yeah, so I'll go into it briefly as best I can. So,
okay.
Of course, when I signed the ATO with the Rangers, Connecticut Whale, it's not an easy situation for those guys, for a player to come into a team at the end of a season and try to find a role on the team, in 5, 6, 7 games.
Right.
So that was more about, for me, it was important for me to go and kind of get my feet wet and learn a little bit about the business and of course, when you're playing college hockey, it's competitive within the locker room for ice time and power play time, but nothing compared to professional hockey, where this is how people feed their families and how they pay for their homes, and it's a different atmosphere when you get into a business setting as far as sports go. So my agent, he set me up to go play in that situation. It was important for me to go there and learn about what it's like to be a pro and how hard it is, and we ended up going into the playoffs, and I wasn't playing. I was getting healthy scratch in the playoffs, and they had a good team, and of course they had been winning, and I they signed guys for depth, but they didn't need me in the playoffs, so I was skating, training, working out, everything every day with the team, not playing at all. And I remember kind of being a little bit miserable while I was there, because these are my final months of college that I was missing. That April, May of college, where all my friends were back at school, doing whatever they're doing, having fun.
Right.
And I was in Hartford, Connecticut, going on bus trips, trying to get in the lineup for the American League hockey.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
and we were still in discussions, and they basically said, look, we're not sure if they're going to offer you, but this Jokerit team is going to offer you, and it's an amazing situation for you, and I think that 3 or 4 years from now, you're going to look back and say, having gone there could be the best decision you've ever made, and it's exactly worked out that way. It really couldn't have worked out any better for me. If I had waited at all to sign that contract, the lockout would have been announced, and then an influx of players going to Europe probably would have taken my spot away. So, when I went to Europe, went into Finland at first, like I had already told you, I was playing with some absolute world-class NHL players, able to learn from them on and off the ice, and it was just huge for me. And then in comparing the 3 leagues, it's obviously everybody wants to try to rank the leagues in the world. I think the only 2 that you could say definitively is the NHL is by far and away the best league in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think anybody else will tell you the KHL is the second best league because of the players that it has. You have Ilya Kovalchuk, Alexander Radulov, all of these superstars that would be stars in the NHL, but they're making so much money over here. So there's that group of players that really take the league to the next step, say the American Hockey League. And then you look at the AHL, or I look at the AHL, the Finnish league, the Swedish league, the Swiss A, the league in Switzerland, the top league in Switzerland. All 4 of those are pretty comparable. There's a lot of skills in all those leagues. The Finnish league is characterized by, it's got a lot of younger players, but they're working incredibly hard, very defensive,
Really?
very difficult to get scoring chances. Yeah,
Huh.
very, very. People think of Europe that it's really offensive. It's completely much different than that.
Huh.
Finland and Sweden are so difficult to get scoring chances. The teams don't forecheck that hard. It's mostly trap, a lot of trapping. And it's very, very difficult to produce points in that league. The American League obviously has tons of young talent, tons of really, really good players that will eventually play in the NHL. But then the competition is hindered, I think, because the teams are changing daily.
Right.
You get your top player called up, then you get a player sent up from the East Coast League, and then 3 guys come down from the NHL, and so the lines change daily. And it's so much. It's based. The American League is a development league, so they're not looking for necessarily playing the best players right now. If they say they have a first-round draft pick on their team, their coach is being told by the GM that guy is playing 20 minutes a night, no matter what, because we need him to develop into a player. Our jobs depend on it. We drafted him in the first round.
Right. I see.
So you end up in a situation where you're a little bit in the American League. I mean, you're a little bit out of control how much you play, because the coaches and the GMs are using the American Hockey League to develop their young talent.
Is it your sense that the movement between the NHL and the AHL is even more so now than it was before the lockout? There's a lot more.
I think it is because with the hard salary cap, teams are up against it money-wise. So they have to always play with the cap in order to keep underneath it. They